Good morning or good afternoon, wherever you might be, and welcome to Streaming Media Connect, our seventh Streaming Media Connect. We had a great keynote this morning, kicking things off with Shobhana Radhakrishnan from Google TV. And we've got 20 panels over the course of this week. And then we've got a day of workshops on Friday. Well, it's a single workshop called The Best Streaming Gear. And there'll be a number of presentations from various gear vendors about how to use the coolest stuff on the market today. I'm Eric Schumacher Rasmussen. I am the editor and VP of Streaming Media, and I was responsible for putting together the program here with a lot of help. I'm looking forward to hearing what everyone has to say. Every time we've gotten together for the last 2 years, I've said, we'll see you in person next time, but this time I'm actually feeling pretty good about it. We're going to be in Boston for Streaming Media East on May 24th and 25th with a day of workshops and the Content Delivery Summit on May 23rd. So you can go to streamingmedia.com/East and find out more about that. Registration is open and the full programs will be available online soon. But as I said, we have another great week of virtual panels here, and I'm really looking forward to it. Thank you for attending. Just for being here, you're entered into a drawing for an Amazon gift card, and we'll announce the winner at the end of each session, and we will get in touch with you probably early next week if you're a winner and let you know how to claim that. I'd also like to thank our diamond sponsors for the entire week, Bird Dog and Harmonic, and we have a couple video messages from them right now. And I would, of course, like to thank the sponsor of this session, NETINT. And with that, I'd like to bring on our moderator, Allan McLennan. Allan, coming to us from the Bay Area today. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic, Gary. One of the things that's been happening out here is we've been having a lot of sunshine in San Francisco, but today we're very foggy. So we're quite happy with that fog.
It's back to normal, in other words, right?
As well as normal as it can be. I mean,
yeah,
we can talk about the use of the term normal as we move forward. But yeah, I'm doing great. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks so much. And I'll pass it over to you and you can introduce our panelists.
Well, thank you, Eric. And today, what I have the opportunity to really drill into is an area of extreme interest with me when it comes to how things actually work. When it comes to making sure video looks good on whatever device that you might have and want to use. Since Jian is on his video, I will introduce Jian first. Our panelist today is Jian. One is Jian Lo, who's a company fellow at NETINT. And I'd like to just ask you, Jian, if you could take me through a little bit about your background and why you're interested in being a part of this panel today.
Oh, hi, everybody. I'm Jian Lo from NETINT Technologies. Actually been in this area, starting since from doing my master degree, then my PhD was working on the video encoder optimization. And so, it has been there for many years already. I'm currently in charge of the video fundamental technology R&D in NETINT, mainly on video codec design and algorithm for quality optimization. So our company is focusing on the hardware solution for video processing. We call our what we shipped, we call it video processing unit. We believe these days, with the trend of so many emerged video applications, video processing power has to be increased a lot. And we are interested to discuss with experts here about the current status or the future for AV1, VVC, LCEVC. There were a lot of interesting ideas to be shared and also to learn from other experts.
That's fantastic. Yeah, there's a lot of acronyms that we banter around with different types of successes. Sunil Koteyar is a video engineer at Twitch. And Sunil, if you could turn on your video and unmute, that would be great. And it's being a Canuck, being up in Canada. Tell us a little bit about Twitch and what you're doing and the importance of our topic today.
Yeah, hi, I'm Sunil, and I'm a video engineer in the transcoding group in Twitch. As the name suggests, we are responsible for the video encoding pipeline in Twitch. And as you are aware of, we also provide as a service the interactive video service, which is offered by AWS. And for us, as the topic suggests for this panel, we are also at the point where we need to decide what future codecs we are going to use and how do we make those decisions, like, what are the roadblocks and what enhancements in technologies we want to consider to include. So yeah, I'm also looking for input from others, and I also like to provide what we do as part of this panel, and hoping to have a great time here.
You're kind of looking for the answer to the Holy Grail.
We can see if we can collaborate and bring up a good answer.
Yeah, very much so. And, not only on this call, but also in the days and weeks ahead. Last but certainly not least is Jian Ozer, who is, the principal of Streaming Media, Streaming Learning Center and contributing editor for Streaming Media. Jian is an expert in this category, has authored many different articles and white papers in regards to this and the goings on that within this industry, and is a highly relied upon source in finding out solutions. Jen, could you unmute and maybe turn on your video for us?
Yeah, thanks, Allan. I've been encoding video since 1993, starting with CD-ROM-based codecs and working through MPEG-2, and then real video and some of the early Microsoft codecs that were for streaming. And now I do a lot of training and I do a lot of consulting, and I'm always, my clients are eager to hear which codecs are going to deliver the maximum efficiency, maximum, quality. So it's a good field to stay on top of. And Eric has been kind to let me do a lot of studies for the magazine that kind of, help me stay there.
Well, I know I rely on what you author and what you write about. So I appreciate your being with our group on our panel today. I just want to kick it off with an observation experience that I had yesterday. Maybe I would think a lot of our listeners and viewers on this webinar today were in the same kind of situation, watching the Super Bowl. And it was an event, not just the football. Yeah, football is a good game, but it was an event. And right at halftime, where I was at a neighbor's. We were sitting in their backyard garden in California, and they had brought out a 60-inch HD screen and had set it up. So it was really quite lovely. And it was beautiful. 4K, it was just stunning. The audio, everything about it was working beautifully. And so we were watching the game, and it was tremendous all the way through the first and second quarter. And then we went to the halftime show, which the hostess, she said, I want to turn this up. And she turned it up, and it was right there. And then if you look to the right in their living room, they had another 60-inch television that was connected to Comcast. The one in the garden was connected to a Fire Stick, and it was beautiful. The one in the living room was comfortably 2 seconds ahead. And the audio between the two of them and the video became distractive during the course of the halftime event, because it was music. So it was moving things back and forth. Knowing that codecs don't really provide that kind of effect on latency, do you think as we move forward in the new realm of new standards and new efficiencies that these new codecs like from LCEVC and others that can bring this kind of improvement, do you think it's going to have at all on the latency component? Jian, I want to go to you. I mean, I want to ask that question to you as an industry expert on that. Latency, codecs, what do you think? That was a very noticeable difference. We actually asked them to turn the TV off because it was too distractive.
Yeah, I think with latency, you're either real time or you're not. And if you're real time, then the codec's not going to introduce latency into the picture. And I think more people associate latency with the technical standard that's used for delivery. And you were probably watching through HLS or Dash, not low latency HLS or Dash out in the backyard. And they were, broadcast. Broadcast is typically around 5 seconds. And I guess low latency HLS is now around 7 to 10 seconds. So maybe it was low latency out in the backyard. But again, most people typically associate latency with the standard that's being used to deliver it, not with the codec.
All right, so it has nothing to do with it, really. It's got everything to do with the quality of the screen, because on the screen itself, it was beautiful. I mean, that 60-inch HD television with just a Fire Stick was delivering a tremendous experience. And if you didn't really have this comparison that was right there, you wouldn't know any different. And so in this case, it's right there. So let's go through a little bit of what we started this conversation out and ask each of you kind of your, especially, why don't we kick off with Jian with your comments about AV1 and what, we've got a number of codecs that are out in the market. We've got, as our headline in our panel says, AV1, VVC, EVC, LCEVC, and more. So let's go through each one of these, and if you can call out the dynamics between and importance of each one just in a small snippet, an overview, I think it'd be helpful. Jian, what about AV1?
Oh, okay. So for AV1, it has been there for a while, and we've actually seen there were some at least the POCs, but we believe that there were some companies already starting to ship the product. The product what I'm talking about is not just the encoder, like the video chat services. For video chat, they are encoding is on the client side. They probably could have a low complexity profile for that. And meanwhile, there are some companies working on the AV1 cloud encoding services. And for us, we just shipped our first generation AV1 hardware encoder. So we believe, starting from the academia to our own experiments and simulations, we believe AV1 still can deliver a pretty good video quality with some constraint of the bandwidth, and which will be a good improvement over H.264. And meanwhile, AV1, we've seen hardware decoders, vendors starting to ship hardware decoder supporting that. And those will be, this will be giving a pretty good chance for AV1 to be adopted. And meanwhile, AV1 is a new generation of video codec, which has been adopted to the HTML5. So we believe it will be like kind of ubiquitous decoding capability, and that's why our company still invests a lot on AV1.
So that's pretty a lot of your focus is on AV1 right at the moment, and really kind of how that's going to be applicable towards the MPEG-5. But we all know where some of the MPEG-5 foundational activities exist, especially with the patents that are surrounding that. And Sunil, how about yourself with Twitch? I mean, right away, taking a look at how can you make this decision? AV1 is certainly a component, but you're also considering VVC and EVC. What's your opinion on these codecs and how they impact, and where are they sitting with you at this time as far as the most important?
So as you know, like we have engaged with AV1, like, it's backed by AOM, and then we have put considerable effort towards AV1, and there is a clear path with AV1, but that didn't rule out exploring LCEVC and EVC, VVC still has time. Like, there is some amount, like, it's not ready yet in terms of both software and hardware, but we do see like LCEVC and EVC, there is some traction. LCEVC especially, we know that there are good software implementations. The only thing with LCEVC is the ecosystem support. So we want to see that it gets adopted on the ecosystem, right? And they have done a good thing here by in the licensing terms to not have a license cost for the implementer. So I think it's a good step forward. But coming to EVC, at this point, we don't see a lot of people involved with it. So we are just tracking the progress. We have done some small evaluations, but at this point, we are in just like a watching position for EVC.
I see. Well, yeah, Jian, one of the things that really comes into play has been brought up a couple of times with LCEVC. That this particular technology and basically the underlying foundation for MPEG-5, it really helps all of these codecs in capacity. All ships rise with LCEVC. Is this the right time in the marketplace to be able to have this, to be able to help all of the codecs be able to do a better job? Is this what the benefit of LCEVC allows?
I think LCEVC wants to survive and make its own way as an independent technology, not as, it is an enhancement codec, and it is going, performance and usability is going to depend upon the underlying codec. But I think they see themselves, or VNova and other developers and users see it as a viable technology in its own right. I think the key advantages of LCEVC are backwards compatibility. Wherever the base level codec plays, the LCEV stream will play, even if it's at lower resolution. And with all the talk about a green codecs, because LCEVC is so efficient to encode and decode as compared to VVC or HEVC or even AV1, I think a lot of people see an opportunity for LCEVC to be that green codec that stops the ever pursuit of more complex codecs and leads us to better quality but lower complexity as well.
As well as lower cost. If you're bringing up the green codec compatibility, sustainability is something that the efficiencies of the codecs and how they're working at this time can put reduced loads and limit on the networks as themselves, and so reduced power consumption, reduced need to be able to push out the higher quality of an experience. Is that fair to say at this time? Because I'm reading 50-60% utility savings on many of the new accelerated codecs, particularly LCEVC.
I'll speak briefly and then defer to the other two panelists because I think they have direct experience. But I think it's confusing at best, because you've got AV1 or VVC in software as compared to AV1 or VVC in an ASIC, and what are the power consumption characteristics of, and certainly Jean-Luc can talk about that. And then you've also got the how much efficiency on the delivery side does a codec that's 50% more efficient deliver over one that's that requires much more bandwidth. So the whole delivery side I don't really understand, but a lot of the power consumption look at software versus software encoding. And I think with AV1 in particular and VVC, as well as all the other MPEG codecs, we're moving towards a more ASIC-like build structure, like we saw with Google and VP9 and their Argus VCU. So if you've got an ASIC, I don't know how that compares power consumption-wise to software-based encoding. So I think there's a lot of confusion about direction and also what the comparables are.
Right. Jian, you comment on that?
Yeah, just following what Jian just mentioned about the software and hardware issues. I think first we probably need to compare about the software solution and the hardware solution. About talking about utility bills. And so I see some articles talking about if just the switching from the CPU compression from Google's VP9 encoder to their others, even the electricity bill itself can pay off their investment on the VCUs. So I think for that sense, hardware ASIC solutions will be definitely the benefit. You will get the benefit from ASIC solutions. Then talking back about LCEVC, we are always talking about ecosystem support, and I think the ASIC solution is the topic we should always talking about if we need to talk about the electricity savings. There is no hardware decoder so far, and of course there is no hardware encoder. So most likely we are going to have a hybrid solution with hardware encoding at the for the baseline. Maybe it's VVC, AV1, H.264, as was it claimed. They can support all the encoders as the baseline, and then using the CPU to do the enhancement layer encoding and decoding. Of course, their algorithm looks pretty interesting. They use the quite a simplified algorithm, very, very much simplified with the previous scalability profiles of other standard. But compared with hardware solution, we did some simple mathematics. We believe you still need a pretty good CPUs to do the hardware software encoding, because you are always talking about the high definition in encoding, and it's upscaled from probably HD to UHD. Comparing with that, we still think like there's probably some benefit, but it's not a application killer for adopting LCEVC just because of the electricity savings.
Yeah, you raised an interesting point though, because there's a lot of different variables. When it comes to is VVC too big to fail? Is it something there that can it just fizzle out, or there's some of these codecs that like EVC doesn't really need to exist. Sunil, is this an area like helping you kind of carve through a little bit of what you're looking to address and find a solution? What are your opinions on something like that?
Yeah, it's definitely there is value for different codecs at different points. Like LCVC, yeah, there may be hybrid solutions, and it may be somewhere it fits in the cost benefit trade-off. EVC or cost performance trade-off. EVC is something like from a Twitch perspective, we cannot support, we can, but we are not in favor of supporting multiple codecs or for the same stream. So do we we encourage it, like we are working with different partners for each of the codecs, but as I told earlier, we don't see much visibility for EVC. VVC, I hope, is as good as standard. When it's mature, compression efficiency wise, it will be good. But again, will it be hampered by the same issues which we have for HEVC? Okay, so that's always a thought for us, and yeah, I cannot comment more on that. Yeah, for VVC, yes, VVC, it's very difficult to comment. EVC, LCVC, yes, there is potential, and we are looking towards it.
Jian, you've got a smile on your face.
I think we're 20 years ago, H.264 came to market and dominated, or 18 years ago, whatever it was, because it was the best codec. And we've really moved into the era of the politicization of codecs. So we've got AV1 and the Alliance for Open Media. And I think here in the US, we tend to look at the world through an AO media lens. But if you look at VVC, I mean, Qualcomm is one of the biggest patent holders, and MediaTek is up there as well. And they happen to make a lot of the chipsets for a lot of the Android phones. So whether or not Sunil thinks he's going to adopt it for Twitch, which is largely, gamers, not premium content, not in the living room, if you look at all the adoption trials for VVC that are out there from very large companies in the Far East and very large services in the Far East, VVC has a ton of momentum going for it that you really wouldn't believe if you view the world through an AO media centric lens. So I think, I'm smiling because it's so political these days, and which codec is Qualcomm going to adopt? They haven't adopted AV1 yet because, they don't have any IP in it. They are going to adopt VVC, which means a bunch of Android phones are going to have VVC. What impact does that have on publishers? I guess that remains to be seen, but I don't think, AO media is not, they're very strong in the US and obviously worldwide as well, but there are a lot of forces that are kind of against what it is they're trying to promote with this AV1, AV2 specific world.
You bring up, it's very timely with Alliance of Open Media. Are they a lobbyist group then in that case within the industry? I mean, are they looking to find solutions? Politicization of an environment like this never works out to anyone's advantage because then the best tech doesn't win. Is this a good thing? Is this so? Are they driving the codec adoption at this time? Is this something that could be talked to?
If you look at the fact that Chrome doesn't support HEVC playback even on platforms that it's available for free, you can probably say, yeah, they're driving it. If you can look at the early adoption for AV1, when it costs 200 times more to encode than any other codec, yeah, you could probably say there was politicization. And you'll see the same thing. I guess my point is that, again, we view the world through an AO media centric lens, or at least I do because I'm here in the States. But if you go overseas in China and the Far East and you look beyond Netflix and YouTube, there's a lot of support for VVC.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you raised an interesting point as far as all of that. It's astounding. But since we're using both hardware and software codecs, there's one of our questions we exchanged. How can we help level the playing field for these efficiencies of the codecs? I mean, is this a spot for LCEVC to really allow that? You mentioned before there's certainly an ambition for one firm out in the marketplace to be able to do that, but they've developed a very viable solution to be able to help all improve their experience within this environment. So what would the hardware implementations of LEVC provide? Right at the moment, we're looking at a situation like in 2022 that most everything's on H.264. It's starting to evolve, but is this an area where LEVC can provide an added benefit within the hardware environment as well? Jian?
Yeah, which Jian?
Oh, Jian, not Jen.
Okay.
Let me go with you first.
I think LCEVC has a real shot, but as Sunil talks about, there's the whole ecosystem support, which I think they've done a really good job promoting. But there's promotion and then there's adoption, and until they get adopted by a major player like a Twitch or like a Google or like a Facebook or Netflix, it's going to be hard to predict that they're going to succeed in a big way. I think they're really close, but they need to take that next big step. There's plenty of reasons to adopt it, but until it gets adopted, you just don't know what is going to succeed. And I think there's going to be, I just think AOM and all the companies associated with AOM are always going to be anti any MPEG standard, and they're going to, they may not actively subvert it, but they won't aggressively adopt it. At least they haven't to date. Facebook talks this great game about wanting to reduce costs of encoding and all this green stuff, but adopt LCEVC and prove to us that you mean it.
Well, it's Globacom down in Latin America has certainly stepped up. That was announced recently, as far as that, and that's the entire area, regional area. So right there's been an acceptance on that. But that's not the point of this conversation. But they being Vinova has done a tremendous job on that, improving the efficiencies of what this LCEVC can really do. So I think it's there. Jen, your opinion on that?
Yeah, for me, I would say still, again, LCEVC is probably the hardware. So far, I didn't hear any hardware companies are interested working on the hardware implementation for LCEVC. And if we go a little bit further for VVC case, I would say, yeah, just trying to add my opinion here. Yeah, I agree. Like there were a lot of hardware giants working on the VVC decoders for sure, probably encoders. But can we bet like for iOS or web supporting VVC? For supporting support on iOS or web probably will not be a sufficient condition for adopting a new standard, but it's necessary, right?
Right. One of the questions that just popped up actually came out. Has Qualcomm publicly stated their support for VVC in the mobile chipsets?
I think they have, but I know MediaTek has. Email me the question and I'll track it down because I know there's. I think they have, but they're the largest patent owner of VVC related patents. So it would be shocking if they didn't support it in an upcoming chipset.
Okay. Sunil, I'm not really calling you very much because we've been having this kind of debate over here. What's your opinion about this, especially with Twitch?
Regarding, sorry?
Regarding the two with LVC.
So like I want to bring out additional input here, like from broadcasting side, we have DVB supporting both AV1 and VVC as their potential codecs, and here also in North America, ATSC supporting HEVC, and going forward they will hope maybe support VVC also. That's been their tendency, right? So there is something for VVC going but from our side, so specifically speaking of Twitch, right? Like we would like to say that the adoption by a lot of vendors will iOS as well as other chip companies, right? When it's ready, we would be able to move to VVC, but nothing LCVC. I'm not it's there, but we are still evaluating whether we go for a hybrid solution or do we wait for a completely hardware solution.
Well, you're talking about a hybrid solution, but in many ways it's a scalable codec, right? It's something that can have the flexibility to scale up. It's, are we talking about, what should be a good choice to use in AVR streaming? I mean, we're moving into, yes, Twitch from a gaming standpoint is one thing, but we're talking about streaming environments. We're looking at with AVR, which is a good offer and solution at this time to look at for AVR streaming. Jen, not Jan. Jen?
Are you referring to me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. If we just forget about the hardware support, just in terms of technology wise, I would say it also we previously discussed about the transmission protocols, and we assume those are the most important thing for the latency things. And I think if we really want to go really ultra low latency especially on the mobile devices these days, people are I think at this time, APEC countries they're going a bit further in terms of reducing latency because people want to be more interactive, and people are trying to cut the end-to-end latency to under 1 second. And then these days, even though our infrastructure is getting better, but there still could be some packet loss, burst, variations, on the bandwidth. And then you need to, for the LCEVC technology-wise, for the scalability, people still need to make sure you're giving you a constant high resolution quality, or probably not that very high resolution quality if your bandwidth is not very good using the baseline. And then I think it brings a very, very big challenge for the joint optimization between the LCEVC encoder with the bandwidth transmission optimization. This is always a headache for people providing service on this kind of video delivery.
And you're describing all of the different codes. It's like we're moving towards a multi-codec world, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, they're all going to be having to be interrelating to each other to be able to provide an overall service, which means that we're moving away from maybe an H.264 environment. And so do you think that's going to be in the next 5 years, next 3 years, we're going to be moving away from an H.264 or H.265? I mean, these are platforms to be able to interact with the codecs that we're talking about. Jian, what's your opinion on that? Is it a benefit to be able to integrate and be able to have these codecs from a multi-codec standpoint interrelate with each other and do away with H.264? What's your thoughts behind that?
I think it really depends, who you are and when you need to make your bets on codecs. So if you're currently a publisher, you want to publish using a codec that can play on the devices you're targeting, which at this point, if you're computer based, it's VP9, H.264, and AV1, and if you're in the living room, it's HEVC, and to a lesser degree VP9, and then if you're and I don't really think you need, if you're a chip vendor or if you're a patent attorney, if you're a standards body, you need to think 5 to 10 years ahead. If you're a streaming publisher, I don't think you need to think that far out. I mean, life is complex enough, and you're gonna make or break your business based upon the programming that you choose, not the codec that you choose. So, I mean, right now, the codec that's best for publishing is the one that that plays on the predominance of platforms that you're currently trying to support.
And in that particular case, I'll move to Sunil. Is this really where Twitch is starting to look at the flexibility of the immediacy of this solution versus the overall basis and foundation of a 264 or 265?
No, so ecosystem is primary. We want to reach as many people as possible, and that's our biggest concern, right? So at this point, we see most of consumption happens on a desktop, so browser support is primary, and we see that at this point, AV1 has 75 to 80% coverage on the browsers. So AV1 is what we are considering, and it is a straight, like I said, the path is already ready for AV1. Right, and with a lot of big streamers already pushing TV companies to have AV1 support, that's another added advantage for Twitch. So we believe at this point AV1 has a good support for adoption for a company like us. Okay, so it may be sooner than that the AV1 happens on Twitch.
It's you raise up a really interesting point, and Jian, you've really brought up some interesting points as far as the different governing bodies from, DVB or MPEG. Who's got the influence? I mean, obviously DVB's got the European influence, and the MPEG. Are these still viable in the industry as we move forward? These services and alliances?
Absolutely. No question. I think, and look at VVC. I think VVC is this big thing that nobody's paying attention to because, again, we're living in an AO media centric world, but I think that there's so much activity happening on the trial standpoint and implementation standpoint. And that's all because it's a standards based codec. And it's really setting up a clash between, and we've seen this, right? And we've seen it with, first it was Google and VP9 against HEVC, and now it's AV1 with the Alliance for Open Media against HEVC, VVC, LCEVC, and EVC. So I think, they're tremendously viable. They set standards that TV manufacturers care about, broadcasters care about, and they will continue to do so.
So, but the impact of either of those on their different regions, as we brought up the fact of the different codecs having different traction in Europe or within the North America, you know, we live in a global world now. Our audiences that what we're dealing with Jian and with Twitch, they're coming from everywhere. And so the influence of these two governing bodies is something that we need to have some sort of collaboration, don't you think? Isn't this, are we leading, are we heading towards that in the market to have this kind of collaboration take place? Jian? Jian, you're on mute. You might want to leave your mic off mute. There you go.
I think that's a tough question.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are, talking to different customers, and it feels like still these days, different customers from different areas, they have very different requirements so far. I believe this kind of gap will still continue for a few years, if not, not lifelong.
Jian, your follow up on that?
I don't see any path towards I don't want to call it a reconciliation. I just think we're gonna see the AV1 and the AO media standards on one track and the broadcast standards on another. And broadcast has gone down a bit, but there's still a lot of TV manufacturers out there and a lot of broadcast equipment manufacturers who want to use a technology that that they trust, which is typically going to be coming from a standards body. So to a certain degree, it's not all that much in conflict. I mean, browser-based playback is easy. And that's why a lot of companies support VP9 and a lot of companies support AV1. And I think EVC has a real good chance there. On the hardware side, which is a totally different track, Sunil, do you guys support HEVC yet? Or are you still, browser-based and, so there's a whole lot of.
No HEVC support.
So whole lot of companies targeting just the browser that don't, haven't supported any MPEG-based codec other than H.264. On the other hand, if you're premium content in the living room with 10-bit HDR video, you're 100% supporting HEVC, and and 85% of your viewers are watching on those platforms.
Yeah, you raise a really good point, and that is there's the collaboration, the working together, the multi-codec environment. It just seems like there needs to be some sort of solution that can help all of them interrelate and be able to perform what they're designed to be able to perform versus be single-minded towards what they're approaching it. It brings me back to LCEVC as that kind of overall. And yeah, there's a push out there. There's a want to be able to have that, but it seems like in the multi-codec world, multiple platforms have been performing on it. There seems to be a need to be able to have that across the world more than it is in a regionally specific environment, North America or South America or Europe. Does that make sense? Is that kind of commonality to accelerate all decisions that are being considered at this time, to have that kind of understanding and leveling effect? Is that something to work towards? Is that something, Sunil, you're looking at, is to be able to provide this kind of solution to as many users as you possibly can, so this kind of common platform solution accelerator can benefit your offering?
So we have 150K concurrent channels. Okay, so for us, having a multi-codec solution is challenging. Okay, so we may have a proposition with LCVC, but we are not going to do multiple codecs simultaneously. Okay, it may be a path from H.264, LCVC, AV1, or any future codecs where the gains from LCVC will fit in. So, but from a Twitch with so many concurrent users, we are looking at one codec which is widely reachable. Okay, and it can be LCVC. It's not that it's like, it's just that where do we place it? Like, do we find a better codec than LCVC, then we switch to that. Like we are looking for one codec at like, at the end, like, so, but LCVC is on the path. We do see it as on the path.
That again, kind of on the creative solution here of having one component that would be able to allow all of the different codecs to interrelate and interwork together seems to make sense as we're starting to move forward. And that's what I'm hearing you say. It's like there's a consideration there. Jian, when it comes to your evaluation of the overall market and where we may be able to go, the same question. Is this commonality, being able to provide this kind of efficiency with all of the codecs, be able to be a benefit for the overall industry? I mean, you're right, there's one codec that's got to be picked, but as it evolves and as the need and strain starts hitting it with the demand of the networks in itself, how then do you allow for that to have a greater reach? We're getting there. There's a call. What Jian has brought up when it comes to AOM, really provides an open-ended question on so many different levels to the impact, getting back to the benefit of each one of these large corporations, even Apple, and how they're moving forward within this environment. There seems to be some sort of a need for some sort of unifying layer to accelerate and enhance all of this kind of effort going forward. I know there's competitive environments. I know where we're going, but when we're building out so many different offerings and the demand is at such high level, whether it's streaming of video content or low latency gaming environments, there's got to be some sort of glue to hold everything together. Does that make sense to you, Jian? Jian, Ozer?
Yeah, you're positioning LCEVC like it's the Sweden of codecs. It makes everybody come together.
No,
LCEVC,
I'm just kind of asking. It seems that if it's someone else, great. But I'm just kind of asking. There seems to be that need.
I mean, you still have to pick a base layer codec. You have to, you still have to pick a base layer codec. You still need, so it doesn't make sense to use VVC as a base layer if you don't have broad-based VVC support out there. To a certain degree, the success of LCEVC depends upon the success of the base layer codec, which is why Sunil is probably looking at, AV, perhaps with a base layer AV1. I mean, LCEVC has very, very strong value propositions. It's backwards compatible. It's very efficient. It's very efficient to encode and decode. vNova has done a great job with ecosystem support. It's not on the operating systems, but you can very easily utilize it by using the right player, by using the right SDK. They've done a great job with that. But in terms of being the unifying standard that brings all codecs together, I just don't see it as delivering on that. I don't think that's their mission.
Maybe not.
I certainly don't think that's what.
Yeah, I would agree. That's not their mission to bring everything together. It just allows for the efficiencies of each one to be able to evolve. So it allows for that kind of growth.
Yeah, but to a degree, they can only reach where the underlying codec is reached. It makes no sense to use LCEVC with EVC as a base layer if there's no EVC support out there. So you're always going to be competing to a certain degree, and depending upon the success of the base layer codec and whatever target environment you're going to be trying to reach.
Jian, your opinion on that?
Yeah, I'm actually probably among the few engineers who would like to have just one unified encoder, because my work will be a lot easier. Right now we have to working on optimization H.264, 265, AV1. We are looking at VVC and LCVC for sure. But because this is live, it looks like there's no negotiation, compromise between different standard committees, and so we believe this will be there for a long time. And I think in terms of the industry, well, I would say like a good practice is just to have a cloud transcoding unit using probably our VPUs, then the problem could be solved to some extent. But then talking about back to the LCVC, I think, yeah, I agree with Jian, on this. This is a pretty interesting and good technology, but it's not the one who can unify all the, all different codecs. But of course, we would like to see there's only one LCVC technique. There's no like LCVC or open media LCVC, things like that.
Yeah, it's like it's obvious. There's no way to bring all of the different codecs together technically. It's just a matter of how to build more of efficiencies for each one to separately perform and grow and evolve within the needs of the market. It's like, do you think then are we going to start seeing a hardware and software combination of codecs increase at this time rather than just software only? Is this the direction that we're going to increase density? Sunil, is that what we're looking at?
Yes, that definitely is open. Like, we want to see whether we can, not only in the codec perspective, right? Like, there will be a hybrid model with respect to codec, pre-processing, AI, ML, everything. So there is a framework of hybrid processing. And when it goes to software, it can be everything, not only the codec improvements. So definitely this is open for us.
So there's an open market. Pardon me, Jian. Pardon me.
I think one of the biggest trends we're going to be seeing, perhaps as a response to the, people's desire for a green codec, is more movement. I think for a long time, most of the VOD encoding out there, and I realize that Jean-Lu and Sunil are both supporting real-time environments or have real-time environments, but I think we're going to see a lot more ASIC-based VOD encoding for the same basic reason that the Google switched to the Argos device, because it's going to be more power efficient. So I see, great potential for a lot of the devices that NETINT is building, because I think we need very efficient AV1 encoding. And I think a lot more VOD encoding for AV1 is going to be based on those ASICs. And I think that's probably a pretty significant movement we're going to see going forward, as opposed to the software-based encoding that we've used for most VOD for the last, 5 to 10 years.
You're raising going forward. We're talking about gaming. We're talking about video delivery. What about, the new enhanced worlds that we're talking? You brought up Facebook earlier with Meta. And the directions with AR and VR and autonomous vehicles, all of this efficiency, the need for a highly efficient codec delivery and exchange is key. Do you see any advantages in any of the particular codecs that might play in those realms, in the autonomous vehicles world? Just to take a little bit of a shift away from video and gaming? What do you think? I mean, Twitch isn't looking at that from autonomous vehicles. Jian, are you looking for that yourself in autonomous vehicles at this time, or the demand and dynamics of AR and VR? Is that an area of focus that you are starting to consider?
Yes, we provide very general usage for our encoders. So theoretically, our encoders could work pretty good for VR, AR, and autonomous driving. But we understand, these things will have a different, video characteristics and different encoder tools or different optimizations on the algorithms. So we start to look at these applications, and we are, it's all based on, the video input. And we are actually starting to kind of training or tuning our algorithm based on these specific areas. And but we still found there were a lot of room to be improved. So for the next generation, we probably need to add more, just like the standard defined by the standard. AV1 and the VVC, they actually start at the very beginning. They consider all these applications, and they start, especially VVC. It's from its name, they start to add encoding tools, which can probably not be beneficial across all the applications, but it will be like giving you 20–30% extra savings over different video contents. So we think that there will be a good trend for that.
Jian, I was asked, thank you. I was asking a question as far as like VR and autonomous vehicles. Is there any particular codec that we have been talking about that would be more applicable to those kinds of environments than just one or the other? Just as a crapshoot, just grab one.
I mean, I just wrote a blog piece for the Streaming Learning Center. The title is "If a Butterfly Flaps Its Wings in Cupertino, VVC Standard is Assured." And the basic premise of the blog post is that Apple just bought what appears to be 14 VVC-based codecs, and one of the person who brought it to my attention mentioned that they had a VR headset with 12 cameras in it. And if you got 12 cameras in a VR headset, you're going to need hardware-based compression, and it's going to have to be pretty efficient. So I think, that's one, hardware-based codecs, whether it's, an ASIC that Jian builds for NETINT, or whether it's a VVC type technology, you're going to need hardware in all those applications. And, forget about being green, you're going to need the most efficient codec possible if you're going to put 12 cameras in a headset.
Yeah, it's going to have to be highly efficient to be able to do that. Jian, what's your opinion about that? I mean, when it comes to 12 cameras in a headset, that's pretty demanding. What do you think about that overall, that need?
Yeah, cannot agree more. So I'm thinking actually, what would be the cable which can transmit 12 camera data, even after compression. So yeah, I agree that we need a pretty good video encoders, and probably compression ratio is a top priority for this moment.
Yeah, and well, I'm not going to go into that. We have a couple minutes left right at the moment when it comes down to how are we going to be really, what's the best combinations? One of the questions that came up in the Q&A is, what do you think the best combination of multi-codecs are in the next several years to cover client devices for the most efficiency? We've covered a lot of this in the conversation, but nothing specific. Any comments back on that? No?
Go ahead, Sunil.
No, like it has obvious answer as such. It's AV1 and HEVC. H.264 is obviously there, okay, but if you're looking beyond it, it has to be HEVC and AV1 if you want to cover every possible device. But beyond that, things may change in next 4 or 5 years. Yeah, that's what I want to say. Yeah.
That's a long ways out, 4 or 5 years. We're talking about decisions that are being made today. Jian, closing comment?
It's funny, when Apple joined AO Media, they joined, I think, 28 months after it was formed, but somehow they became a founding member. And they could have done a lot for AV1 support if they put it in, hey, their little popular device like the iPhone. And they really could do a lot to unify the standards, but by just adopting AV1 and putting it in their own devices. And if they did that, then HEVC, at least from a device perspective, could kind of go away. You wouldn't need it for mobile and those type devices. But again, you've got the dichotomy between 10-bit HDR video in the living room that's 4K and what's played in a browser in 8-bit. And as long as that dichotomy exists, you're going to need 2 different codecs and even 2 different classes of codecs to support it.
I think that's a good spot to really kind of close the conversation off, because we've discussed a lot of different things here. We've opened up debatable comments and questions, and we've come back with an open conversation of what our opinions are when it comes to solving these problems as we move forward. And there couldn't be anything better in a conversation like this to our audience. So thank you very much, Jian, Ozer, and Sunil Koteyar. Thank you so much for being a part of this group. Eric, coming back to you.
Thank you, Allan, for doing such a great job of moderating and pushing and prodding. You always do a terrific job. And thanks to our audience for joining us. Thanks again to Bird Dog, Harmonic, and NETINT for sponsoring. And the winner of the Amazon gift card is Guy Ashford. Guy, watch your email next week for more information about that. Join us in about 30 minutes when we're going to talk about edge delivery. Thanks again, everyone.